digging danger. B is for baseline pressure. RDB inside arena. R is for roller coaster. D is for digging danger. B is for baseline pressure. RDB inside arena. MC tricks and give you flavor.
So we have a very special guest with us, kind of like on video link, but do you want to make the...
Yes, it's the guy that's orchestrated everything that you have seen so far in this Christmas period. He's the one who's brought most of the people down. Yeah. He's the guy that's also made us have arguments with some people who don't want to come on, but it's Manj.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
As obviously you're aware, we're doing this Untouchables reunion and we're trying to find obviously everyone's story and piece it all together, but the main kind of thing is, you know, celebrating life of Kully and understanding the journey that you guys went on with Kully, the success, the highs, the lows, etc. You know, I know your story's been told many, many times, so I want to kind of talk about things that kind of haven't been spoken about. But I want to kind of go straight into kind of the Untouchables team that was kind of created and how RDB kind of fit into this. And the first question was, you know, when you guys created RDB and you joined Untouchables, did you ever expect the brand RDB to become bigger than Untouchables? Because, like, you know, in past, you know, Death Row Records was always a massive name, Tupac, Snoop, etc. But underneath it, you had, for example, like, you know, other labels like Movie Box, etc. No artist ever became bigger than the label, but in this case, suddenly, you know, the three brothers, then plus Indy Sagu later on, as a brand, you just superseded and essentially became your own brand and entity in itself. Everybody thought that your Mets, your Trixes, your Eagles MCs, they were all RDB.
Everybody is RDB.
Yeah, everybody's RDB. Did you ever expect it to kind of be that successful?
No, you know what? To be honest, I mean, the way it started was really just, it was crazy how it started, because we met Tony from Untouchables through Surindaran. Let's not, you know, sugarcoat this. We started our music career in the music industry because Surinder kind of gave us that stepping stone to say, yo, these boys are doing this right now. We never even been to a club until Surinder was like, yo, come to a club and you guys can and DJ whilst, and, you know, I'll be on the mic and blah, blah, blah. So we met Tony after we met Surindaran. So we met Surinder first, who came to us and said, you know what, you guys are making music, let's do some stuff together. And then there was Tony, who was Untouchables, who was doing gigs left, right, and center. And he was, you know, he had his boys out there on the street giving out flyers and blah, blah, blah. And he was the guy who was doing the gigs at Maestro's. And we said, all right, okay, cool. Tony approached us after he saw the potential of what we was doing with Surinder. And that's when Tony said, yo, boys, you guys are doing some really, really cool stuff. Why don't we just release your music and I'll make a label, Untouchables Records. And Tony's a businessman, like he's shrewd, he's an entrepreneur, but he's cutthroat, I guess. So we knew we were in for a ride here because Tony's, you know, Tony's Tony, innit? And he goes, let's make a label. And then with the label, we release all your music. And I said, and both me, Kully, and Serge, we was like, all right, whatever. I mean, this is new to us. Let's do it. The label was Untouchables Records originally. The company was created by Tony, and Serge was put on as a director on that company. Nobody knows this. This is like fresh news. Serge was a director on Untouchables Records. And I think it was because Serge was like, you know, I want to be part of the label and I can help, because Serge wasn't musically inclined, right? So he wasn't making music and he wasn't singing or he wasn't writing. So he felt as though that was his path. That maybe I should be involved in the business side. And me and Kully Paji was okay with it. Me and Paj said, okay, you know what? Do it. Let's go. Tony's okay with it. So you're okay with it. Let's go. Now, Tony and Serge, Untouchables, kind of kicked off like that. But then Tony realized that, you know, I can kind of create my own team and I can do my own thing as Untouchables. I don't really need Serge on the company. Maybe it was business ethics or whatever between them. I don't know. Yeah, okay. So Tony basically said, he basically came to a conclusion that, you know, with my business, I can carry on doing Untouchables with my own team, and I don't really need Serge to be involved in the company in that sense. Now, business ethics wise, I don't know what happened between them or whatever it was, but Serge was taken off and then Tony carried on doing his thing. Then Tony said, I'll invest money in what you need. We said, we need studio equipment. And he's like, okay, cool. I'll buy you a mixer. I'll buy you a nice new computer. And we was like, oh my God, this is crazy. We're getting some really good gear. We're going to start making this new music and stuff. Me and Podge was like over the moon because we're like geek heads. So we're like, yeah, okay, cool. We're doing this. Serge was still trying to find his path at that point. But, where do I fit in here? Because at that point, he was DJing and he was a very good DJ up until today. He's a great DJ. So he was like, DJ is my thing. I'm going to be spinning. But then production wise, I'm going to leave it to you guys because I don't know how to do that. So you guys will do that. And I'll do the DJing and I'll do the business side of it. And Tony goes, cool, no problem. Let's go. And we started releasing music. And when we released the first album, which was the blue one, the debut, literally me, Serge, not so much Podge, but definitely me and Serge went out on the streets and we was traveling with Tony's team selling the CDs.
Obviously, as the journey's kind of going, right, success kind of came. And there's two sides of success which I want to talk about. Obviously, like Indy mentioned, there was a struggle when you and Indy got married and you moved to North America. Like what people see on your social media now, it isn't down to the fact that, oh yeah, you guys made it overnight. There was a lot of work, there's a lot of sacrifices, etc. And then on the other side of things is, you're trying to break a sound into the UK, which at first was being questioned because Bhangra music was always told, Tumbi, your desi stuff, etc.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you're coming from the north. The north had no representation.
Yeah.
And you're coming into the Midlands, you come into London, etc. How was it perceived for the wider industry? Did you guys face kind of doors closing your faces or?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. We was at an event once and Sukshinder Shindapadi came to me and he goes, "Tusi industry nu ki kita? Ki kar deta industry nu? Putta karta?" And I was like, and I got scared. I was like, oh, he's really pissed off. And he goes, nahi, badiya, really, really good. Good, tusi kuch nawa shuru kita hai, badiya, good. Because obviously, Shindapaji was killing it at that time with Jazzy B and the Toads and the Nags were out. All that stuff was out. And just where you've got Nag, you've got this Put Sardar, the garage stuff. It was like such a huge difference in genre of music. But he was really proud. He's like, yo, three brothers, you guys are three brothers, katte kaam kar rahe hain, really good. I like to see it. I'm really, really happy for you. Tusi bahut badhiya kita. So I think the industry was they were happy that it was happening, but they were also intimidated because now we was coming in now so strong that people were kind of saying, oh yeah, let's not go to the Bhangra room, let's go to the garage room. And that's what, that's where the industry started saying, oh, right, okay, maybe we need to start making garage mixes of these Bhangra tracks. Maybe we need to make Lal Chure Waliye. Maybe we need to make etc., etc. So all these garage mixes of these songs started popping off because they could see the potential of the music genre was just growing, stupid speed. But everyone gave it mad love, no doubt. But people hated us in London. They were like, yo, you guys are from the north. You guys are northerners making garage music. We don't listen to that. We listen to Rishi Rich and urban Punjabi music, Jay Sean. And then you go to Birmingham and they're like, you guys are tutty. We're listening to Jazzy B and we're listening to blah, blah, blah. And we're like, yo, it is what it is. Whatever it is, we love Desi. We love the urban scene. We love everything. We just want to mix it all and mash it together. And that's what we do.
Obviously, you guys were the first kind of artists on the Untouchables brand. Who then joined? And what was the chronological order of people joining? Because we've spoken to all these people, but no one's actually said, yeah, I came at this point, Yeah. Who came when in the kind of timeline?
Grown arms and legs, didn't they?
Okay, so RDB was obviously me, Cully, and Podge. Me, Podge, and Serge, sorry. Now, after that, Cully Podge at that time freshly just come back from university. He was at Teesside. He did a degree. He did his master's degree. He's the brainy one out of all three of us. And he came back from Teesside and he'd done his degree and he was into this music and that's where the music started. And I started learning a lot from Podge. Now, Serge had just finished, I think, a BTEC or GNVQ or something like that at a college, and he was a bit confused in what he was going to do next. But then the DJing started, so we kind of kicked off the RDB between three of us. Now, Kuli Paji had certain friends, and Serge had certain friends, because all three of us had our own friend circle. Now, Kuli Paji's friends were mainly in Teesside. One of his boys who's now traveling with me and just DJ AK, he's with me now. So that was Paji's circle, who wasn't really involved in the music scene. And then there was Serge's circle, who were like kind of mixed Gore and a few different people, random people here and there, not again in the music scene. Now my circle, because I'm very like extravagant type of person, I like to go out and meet people. I was like a toned down version of Barge. My circle of people were interested in the music industry. So there was Indy Sagu, who was a friend of mine, and there was Pips, who's now, traveling with Serge and doing shows with Serge and managing him, and he used to manage our stuff on the road as well. So initially, the first person to kind of come in, not musically, was this guy called Pips, who was my best friend, my childhood friend, who said, I'm going to start managing you or whatever. I'll just carry your bags. I'll just do whatever it takes. I'll do whatever I have to need to do. Now, at the same time as this guy, who was part of the team, I had some friends called Suki and Sabi. These guys were like my real good friends. They were in the music industry because they were related to the Sahotas. So, they were really into the whole Bhangra scene and blah blah blah. And they got me more into the Desi vibes. They got me playing Tumbi. I learned Tumbi, I learned Tolki, I learned Tabla. I learned all these things because of those guys. But for some reason, I think it was just the peer pressure of other friends coming in. And remember, this is all my circle of friends. Baj didn't have any of his circle. Serge didn't have any of his circle coming in. This was all my circle. And these guys I used to play football with and blah, 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 and so on. So for some reason, Suki and Sabi kind of got pushed out. And I'm still friends with them, of course, up until today. But they're the type of people that didn't say that, we want to be part of you guys on the road. We want to be part of the music industry. They were just like, Jo tusi kar rahe ho, karo, whatever it is, it's good. We're doing our thing, you do your thing. And they kind of filtered out. Whereas this Pips, he wanted fame. Like, he wanted to be, like, I want to be there, da, 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 da. So he came in, and along with him, then Indy Sagu came. And it's not, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it was people who were hungry for the industry, for the fame, that they were hungry for that. Those people stuck by us. So Indy came, and Indy didn't know how to produce music, right? Indy Sagu, like, as much as he wants to say he did this, he did that, he didn't know how to produce music. And what he did is he was a great DJ. Like, he was an amazing DJ. And along with the DJ, because he used to love scratching, he was really good at this scratching. And I used to go in his room, in his house, and he'd be like, "Yo, I'm doing the chick chick chick," and I'm like, "Yo, that's sick." And he'd be making these scratchy remixes, like using his computer, and he'd it was somewhat cool. It was somewhat cool, and I was like, "Yo, bro, you should be on our team. Let's do it." It wasn't even a conversation. I don't even think none of us ever said you should be out or we should be. It was just, "Chalo aapa gig kariye. There's a gig happening over here. Chalo, let's go to this gig." And they just got on the road. So then, along with Indy, then came Dav. Dav was Litho Tolis. And the Litho Tolis were like our toll players on the road when we used to go and DJ. So now we've got Indy Sagu. So we've got this Pips guy who's like carrying our bags and helping out and making sure things are happening and whatnot, coordinating. We got Indy Sagu, who's now another DJ on our team, and again, another Pagwala as well. And then we've got Dav, who comes in, who's a toll player. Dav had his cousin, who was Nitu, who was also part of Litha Tollis, who was younger at that time. He became another toll player. And that was our circuit for the road. That was for when we used to DJ on the road. Now comes the production side. Now, on the production side, me and Paj was, so because I was very involved in both. I was on the road with Serge and I was in the studio with Podge. So when I'd be in the studio with Podge, that's where me and Podge would be like, "Yo, we need vocals, we need singers. Like we can't just keep like making music and without singers. We need vocalists." And Tony goes, "Don't worry, I'm doing a couple of shows here in this small place, blah, blah, blah. And I'm bringing Kuldeep Manak down, and I'm bringing Surinder Shinda down, and like proper Desi, Leeds, Venter Hall, that type of grimy places." And me and Paz were like, okay, cool. So every time these guys would come, Ranjit Money, these guys would come, we'd stick them in the studio, we'd get them in the studio, and we'd say, you know what? Let's record. So now if you look at the circuit on the road, we've got Pips, we've got this. Let's forget Pips because he had no talent in the music. We had Indy Sagu, and then we had us guys, and now we brought in Binder, and we brought in Gubby. So slowly it started growing, and Gubby kind of came in at a later stage. Binder and Gubby came in at a later stage after Aja Mahi's and blah blah blah, because Aja Mahi was my first song I ever sang, and at that point I moved and I shifted over to Canada, so I didn't have as much interaction with Gubby and Binder and these guys one-on-one because I was living in Canada at the time, and Baj was in Bradford, so he would start recording them and then he would send me the stuff and I would add stuff and send it back, and we was kind of working remotely like that. But that's how it kind of grew in that sequence.
And then,
sorry, I just went on and on.
No. And then when did Manak-E come? Because I remember Manak-E came, like he exploded onto the scene.
Manak-E, Paji came during the time. Oh my God, he came during the time when we was DJing and stuff, and Manak-E came through another guy from Birmingham that Baj met in a club. My God, what was his name? I can't remember his name. Guy with a big bug. He helped Tony. So basically, all these guys were connected with Tony and the gigs and the Punjabi gigs. So we kind of met everyone through gigs and stuff like that. And through that Sardar, I can't remember his name. He said, "Oh, Manak-E vi bahut badhiya gaunda hai, blah blah blah." And then Paj met up with Manak-E. And when Paj met up with Manak-E, that's when the whole Glassy bootlegs kicked off and all these other random bootlegs kicked off, because Cully had this crazy idea of making these bootlegs. And because I was always a Desi production guy. I loved my tumbis and my tols and my tolkis, and I was the Desi guy who brought the Desi elements to everything. And Paj was the Western guy who liked to mix and blend stuff. So it was a good mix of things when we would work together. That's when Manak-E came in and he did Whole Glassy. After that, Baj and Manak-E were like this. Like Manak-E be making chicken at home and Sharaba Shruba and Daru, and Baj would be involved, and like, they got really tight.
There's one person, right, that I know we spoke about Amrit Saab, like he surprised a lot of us that his involvement in Untouchables of getting vocalist. But there's somebody else that you failed to tell me was involved in Untouchables, RDB, in writing lyrics, and that was your dad.
See, Dad started writing lyrics. Okay, so Dad's always been a poet. He likes writing poems. He used to write poems for my mom, like love poems and stuff. Like he's a romantic, right? He's a full-on romantic. This is going back. So before, because we never really approached Dad to write songs until we'd already started making music and released a few songs. So, the Ranjit Money songs were out. So whilst we was recording Ranjit Money's and the Shindas and blah, 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 we'd have, spaces to make new songs. And that's where we're like, Dad, why don't you write a song on something? I think Dad used to sit with Manak-E and help on certain songs and lyrics and blah, blah, blah. When Aja Mahi was made on Danger 2, now, I want to clear the air here because everybody says, Serge will also say this, that Dad wrote the song. Right. The way this happened, Aja Mahi, how it happened, is Aja Mahi was a random idea in my head that I said to Cully, Baj, I'm going to studio and I'm going to make a track on my own without you. And he said, let's see you later. You're never going to be able to do it. And I went, no, I'm going to do it. And let me go to the studio and I'm going to make a track. I went to the studio and I had a CD, and it was Maxwell's CD. And if you hear this one track from Maxwell, he starts off the song on the Maxwell CD where he goes, ooh, yeah, yeah. He actually does that whole, ooh, yeah, yeah. And I was like, right, I'm going to rip it. So I ripped that whole idea of the ooh, yeah, yeah. And I loved Chocolate Boy. Dun, dun, dun. So I just sampled that in. And I put that together, and I just had dun, 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 dun. And then I thought, okay, I need a hook line. And all I could think of at that point was Aja Mahi, Ah Sonia. And that was it. My mind went blank after that because I wasn't a writer. So I was like, okay, I've got the dun 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 Aja Mahi, Ah Sonia. Dun, 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 dun. What the hell do I write to that? So I picked up the phone and I called Herbie Bodgy. And I said, Herbie, I've got a tune. I think it's going to be a banger. And he's like, all right, okay. Because remember, prior to this, I was already making Sony Indy Sagu. I made Sony Indy Sagu for Herbie. I was working on a lot of tappe mixes for Herbie. So I said to Baj, yeah, I got this. Aja mahi, ah, Sonia. And he went, Aake aja gal lag ja tu, something like that. Why do you do that? I was like, ooh, I like that. Aake aja mahi, ah, Sonia. Aake aja mere gal lag ja tu. He's like, yeah, done. All right, peace. All right, bye. Boom. And I put the phone down. And I put that hook down. Now, once that hook was down, I mean, the rest was pretty much history. That's when Dad got involved, and I said, Dad, we need to write the verses. And I have the melody already. And then Dad wrote the verses. So that's how the song actually happened. And then obviously Mets and Tricks came in and were like, yo, we need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And we kind of helped on the melodies and the lyrics, and Barge got involved because Barge was like, yo, it doesn't sound too bad. I remember the first time I made it, and I took it to the sound check where we was DJing at someone's wedding, and we had the mini disc and we played it. And I said, yo, check this out. And I played it, and everyone just went, Serge and the Pips and all the crew, and they were like, this is just complete trash. This is absolute dirty. What? This song is not going to get anywhere. And I said, why? And they said, because it's really like, we're doing hard tracks, bro. Like, what the hell is this? And I says, yeah, all right, okay, cool. I kind of downplayed it and went, okay, whatever. And we put it as track 2 on the album because we didn't think it was strong enough. And it ended up becoming a super duper goddamn hit. So that's how that song happened. That's how Dad got involved in writing songs. And then he started writing more and more songs.
So, obviously, you're doing your thing in Canada, and then obviously, the next transition itself is, what's happening with the rest of the UK. Now, as I mentioned, you guys have now made that transition into Bollywood, and you're one of the very few kind of Punjabi artists to do that. Prior to you guys, there was hardly anyone who's done that, right? But when that's kind of happening, you've outgrown the label, you've outgrown the rest of the roster, you've outgrown the industry. That transition, when it happened, how was that transition? Because obviously, we saw, Singers King, we saw Alam Jart, we saw the success, etc. But how was it to kind of leave Untouchables now, and now you're doing your own thing? Because obviously, at that same time, the UK music industry was struggling, record labels are struggling, they're not making the money they're making, etc. How was that transition to kind of happen? And how was it with the rest of the boys? Because, you started off as a unit. You put all these people in, but now suddenly it's RDB are now going their own way. And the others are kind of left scattering. Like, Manak-E was involved here and there, etc. But the majority of the roster kind of just faded away, right?
Basically, I mean, the whole Bollywood thing happened obviously because of Akshay Paji. I mean, Akshay was the whole reason why we went into Bollywood. Otherwise, we had zero links to Bollywood. We had zero. So Akshay Paji met Koli Paji in London, and then started listening to all the music in the car and be like, okay, this is good, start making music. And that's when me and Paj went to India to make Rafta Rafta, which was the first song with Himesh Reshammiya on Namaste London. Now, coming to your point in how the boys and how the Untouchables and what happened with them. At that time, because remember, I lived in Canada now, so I was flying in and out a lot. I was going back and forth. At that point, we'd kicked off the RDB TV thing was happening, and and then that slowed down RDB TV. So now everybody started doing their own kind of thing. Binder was doing his own thing. He was also working. Manak-E was doing his own shows and stuff. He was involved with more Desi circuit and stuff. So everybody didn't really like separate, but they were kind of busy in their own little worlds doing their things. And where there was gigs, like Indy said that he started to learn to produce. He started picking up things, so he started producing his own stuff. So he was like his own artist. So Indy Sagu was Indy Sagu. He didn't want to be on shows where he wasn't Indy Sagu. So I even used to fly him out to the States on a couple of shows, but he didn't feel comfortable holding the mic and being on the stage with me because he was his own entity as an artist, which I understand. So everybody started moving on with their own brand to try to gain whatever success they could individually without being the shadow of RDB. Because no matter what happened, they were all the shadow of RDB, this brand. Whether it was an Indy Sagu super duper hit, people thought it was an RDB song. So it just became, the brand was so strong. So everybody had this drive that I want to be me. I don't want to be RDB. I don't want to be part of this. I want to be me. So Gubby was pushing for himself. Everybody started doing their own thing. And at that point, we didn't expect Akshay Paji to come and be like, yo, make a song for me in Bollywood. So we was like, okay, cool. We went to Bollywood, and the moment we went to Bollywood and we made Rafta Rafta, that opened a whole bunch of doors for us in Bollywood. Oh, make this song now, make Aloo Chaat, make Flana Flana, etc., etc., etc. And we was like, okay. Now remember, at this point, um, Dad was writing songs for us anyway. So we was like, if we're gonna do songs for Bollywood, the best thing is to keep it in house, because everyone, at the end of the day, business is business and the music industry is the music industry. What we thought collectively between me, Cully, and Dad and Serge is like, we're getting these opportunities, maybe we should push it ourselves instead of like bringing other people in right now. I think everyone's kind of doing their own thing. Let's start doing it ourselves. And that's where everyone started pushing me. Cully, mainly Baj. Baj pushed me and said, man, sing this song. Man, sing this song. Sing Rafta Rafta. Man, sing Aloo Chaat. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll give it a shot and I'll sing it. I'm not a singer. I'm never a singer. I've never been a singer, but it was just something that I like doing. So we sang the songs, we produced the songs, and then Dad wrote the songs. And Kambaktish, Aloo Chaat, all these things happened, and they became super duper successes because the way Dad was writing was just remarkable. It was different to what anybody else was doing. The way we was producing between me and Paj was different. It wasn't what people were getting in Bollywood. And then my voice was so different to the regular Sonu Nigams and the other singers who were singing at the time. So it was just a collective, and it worked really well for us. I'm sure 100% all the rest of the boys felt, oh, we've been sold out. These guys have gone Bollywood, and now you know what? They've kicked us out. They don't really care about us anymore. Blah blah blah. I don't think it. I mean, me personally, because these were my boys. Remember, these were my friends from day one who were in my circle, and I still wanted to keep them involved. Hence why I'd bring Indy out to the States, or I'd bring Pips out to the States. Like I'd be still trying to get involved with my friends and getting them involved somewhere. But what would happen is that the brand was getting bigger because of Bollywood. It was getting so much bigger that no matter who I would try to bring in the team and keep in the team, they'd feel as though they're just a shadow. And they didn't like that. So that's where the distance started growing between everybody. That, okay, well, we don't want to be a shadow. You didn't get us involved in this. You didn't get us involved in that. And when Sadi Gali happened, because remember, Sadi Gali in the movie happened after Sing is King. So we'd done Kambaktish, we did Rafta Rafta, we did Kambaktish, we did Aloo Chaat, we did Sing is King, which had Snoop Dogg on there. So, our heads were like, boom, out here. We were like the biggest of the biggest ever. And then Sadi Gali came, and Tony came to me and Podge and said, they want Sadi Gali for a movie. And we're like, which movie? Tanu Weds Manu. I'm like, who the hell is that? Who's in it? Is Akshay in it? And like, no, there's Kangana Ranaut and some other guy. And I'm like, who the hell are they? And Podge goes, you know what? If they want the song, they can have the song, but they can't use the name RDB. Tell them not to put RDB on there. So because the ego. It was this, the sing is king. We had all these super duper hits, and now these guys want to come and they want to use our song that we produced in a movie, but the movie's crap. So I don't want to put a song in a crappy movie. I want to put a song in a big movie. Don't use the name RDB. So he didn't. We didn't. The agreement was done between Tony Untouchables and T Series. Lember's voice was there no matter what because he was the original singer, and the song was Sadigali because of Lember's simply. Simple fact. If the song wasn't there on that music, there would be no Sadigali. But if that music wasn't there with his vocal, there would be no Sadigali. So it was just a great combination of that song. When the song went out in the movie, the song blew up and like 10 times more than it was already before. That's when we was like, oh, we should have used the name RDB. Now nobody knows that it was our song. In India, in actual fact, because in England, everybody knows Sadi Gali was a Lember and RDB song. But in India, nobody knew the song as a Lember song. Nobody really knew the song even as an RDB song for the longest. There was actually some other music director that collected an award for Sadi Gali on his own behalf that he made the song. So it became a bit of a higgledy-piggledy, but everybody was a little distant because we was kind of just doing our thing, and there was egos, we was feeling on top of the world, and we just wanted to we had a path, we had a goal, and we was like, you know what, we're not gonna let anybody come involved in this because we've got a goal and we're gonna get it. And everyone else kind of just filtered out. And I think that's where, I feel sorry for Manak-E Paji as well, because Manak-E Paji kind of got pushed back as well. And he was one of the backbones for writing some amazing songs and the bootlegs. And that's when the opportunity came for Pesa Pesa. And we said, of course, Manak-E Paji is going to be there. Pesa Pesa, let's do it. So we did try to pick up the pieces for what the distance had grown. But I don't think it was enough, to be honest. I don't think it was enough. Because everybody wanted a piece of that pie. When they're there from the start and it gets this big, everybody wants a piece of that pie.
There's one question I want to ask, and you can cut this. You don't have to answer this. It's just a question that I've always wondered. Right? Was when Aja Mahi went to Bollywood, the rap part. I remember it was in awards, and it was all three you were sitting in the crowd. Akshay was sitting there as well, and the hook line like this goes out to the girls, to the front, to the back. That was done between all four of you, the three brothers, and Akshay.
Yeah.
How did that go down with Mets and Tricks? Because for the longest time ever, it was Mets and Tricks' kind of.
I'm 100 million billion% sure they was definitely not happy about it. But okay, so the way it happened on This Goes Out to the Girls in Front, from the back, to the middle, to left, to right. When that song was made, right? And I'd love to see Mets and Tricks like question me on this. It was not just Mets and Tricks who just said, "Oh, I've got some lyrics. This goes out to the girls in the front, from the back, to the middle, to the left, to right." It wasn't. They did not just come up with them lyrics. Kuli Paji helped make them lyrics up for that hook line. For that. Now, when that was recorded, because I disappeared to Canada, I wasn't in the video. I was like, what am I going to be in the video for? Because I'm not going to be here. So I left. So there was one of my, again, friends who are stuck in the video, Cam, to act it all out. And we made sure Mets and Tricks was in the video because they were doing the hook line. They were doing the Gary thing. Hence why in the UK, Aja Mai became a Mets and Tricks track and not an official RDB song, came a Mets and Tricks song. So then when it came down to the performance, now that song, remember what you're talking about is the performance we did with Akshay in Sheffield at the IFA Awards. That song was not Bollywood at that point. That song was still just big as Aja Mai. It didn't go into Bollywood at that point. But it was Akshay's favorite song. He loved that track. And he goes, I'm performing in Sheffield. मैं उत्थे UK आ रहा हूँ. उत्थे जाके ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ perform ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. ਉਹ ਗਾਣਾ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਗਲੀ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. Those two are my favorite songs. And we're like, okay, Paji, no problem. Koi gal nahi. Now, at that point, we said to Akshay Paji, I sang the song, Manj sang the song, we produced the song, but jehda rap ਆ ਨਾ, that's these other two guys who did the rap. They did it. ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਇਓ, ਉੱਥੇ ਬੈਠੋ ਲਾਈਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਦੋਂ ਰੈਪ ਆਊਗਾ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਕਰਾਂਗਾ just goes out to the girls in front. Are you gonna argue with Akshay Kumar? Are you really? No. So we was like, Baji, okay, all right. If that's what you want to do, then chalo theek hai. He's like, okay. So it wasn't our idea to kick anyone out. Like, for really from the get-go, all I've been trying to do is keep people in. But distance happens, people think, and assumptions, and da da da, and this, that, whatnot, and that's what makes people go further apart. I mean, today I'm still talking to Mets and Tricks on the phone. Like, really, if I wanted to be an asshole about it and big-headed, and from what I'm doing, I could be like, no, I don't want to talk to anyone. I have no interest in talking to anyone. But my Sabah was never like that. I was never been like that. I always wanted to keep everyone cool. So it was Akshay's idea, unfortunately, to do it that way, and we had to go along with it, and that was it. I mean, even when we performed Sadi Gali, Akshay said, "I'm gonna sing Sadi Gali," as in not me, as in Akshay is gonna sing Sadi Gali, and we're like, "Buddy, matlab you're gonna sing?" And he's like, "मैं स्टूडियो जाऊंगा, मैं रिकॉर्ड करूंगा, तो मेरी आवाज मैं गाऊंगा." Now we're not gonna argue with the guy, so we're like, okay, ठीक है पाजी, no problem. Now Lembra's gonna get pissed off. Why? Because RDB just done a dirty on him. But that wasn't the case. We were stuck. Our hands were tied. We didn't know what we was trying to get the maximum we can, but you can't argue and you can't say I want to do this, I want to do that to a person who's giving you a platform and giving you that. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't one of those cases. It really wasn't. It wasn't.
Cool. Now, this is like a part of the interview which I don't want to talk about, but we kind of have to because it happened, right? And that was kind of, you guys are on a rise. You've shattered through the glass ceiling. You're going up and up and up and up. And then suddenly it gets announced to the industry that Kuli's passed away. And to say it shocked the industry was an understatement. Because you guys were young. And then suddenly it's just been announced that, Kuli has passed away. How did that kind of, number one, Indy talked about, it was kept quiet because you guys were battling it. But how did it, like, forget music for a second. Like, this is like your brother, your best friend, etc. How did it impact you and your focus? And, yes, Indy said, Kuli was like, keep the music going, etc. But how did it impact you guys when you found the news and, your mental health, the family, everyone?
I think, initially when Baj got diagnosed, because it was a brain tumor and his brain cancer, slowly he was slowing down, right? So I would try to get him in the studio as much as I can. We'd try to record. So I was on a roll because obviously all the music production was done between me and Baj. Everything, compositions to beats to everything. So there was no RDB without me and Paj being in the studio together. So when Paj got diagnosed and he started slowing down, I was so devastated that I wanted to make sure that Paj's brain was still ticking. I was like, you know what? Chop his leg off, chop his arm off, do whatever you have to do, but don't touch his brain because his brain is the reason why we are here today. So I wanted to keep that drive going. So I'd force Podge to come in the studio and sit with me, even if he just sat behind me and I'm just producing. And I'd turn around and be like, Podge, what do you think? And he'd just be like, yeah, it's cool. Sometimes he'd fall asleep. And my heart I would be like, I was falling apart. Just seeing him deteriorate was making me fall apart. So we tried everything, but then after he passed away, I really felt I can't do it. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this not without Podge. I shouldn't. I don't know. I just can't. I can't do it.
माँ बच्चिया तेरी गुमसुम होई दिलों करे फरियादां की करिए दस किवें जरिए हुण आ रहीआं ने
And everyone said, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Mindy, everyone gave me that. Don't worry, you'll be there, you'll be good. This is what Baj would have wanted. He would have wanted you to carry on making music. So I was like, okay. And then there's a very good friend of ours called Kader Kezek, who's older fella. He's around 48, 49 years old, probably like 55 now, 56. And he sat me down and he said, Manj, listen to me. Yeah, he's from Germany, he is. And he's not even Aparna Desi, he's a Turkish guy. And he said, listen to me. You are the only reason why RDB, the music, can carry on forward. Now, Cully's not here anymore. You have to make a decision that do you want the brand to carry on going forward with your music as you're going to make it? Or do you want to just leave this as a legacy? You have to make that decision. And I was like, I was already in tears. I was falling apart. I was left, right, and center. My brain was fried. And I says, I have no idea. I have no idea. And he goes, if you carry on with the brand, you have to remember there could be consequences in what happens to the brand. You might be successful, you might not be. But Cully would have wanted you to carry on with the brand, for sure. Your brother, of course, he wants you to. Your mom and dad, they want you to. The question is, are you capable of doing it, and do you want to do it? And I was like, I don't know. I'm totally like lost. I have blank in my head right now.
You know, I think people don't kind of see that from the outside. I think, you know, fans, and, you know, Indy mentioned this, you know, fans kind of jumped to conclusions. Fans, you know, said X, Y, Z. Fans, you know, everyone had an opinion, everyone had their own thoughts. And I think one of the most toxic things at that point in time was social media, because realistically, prior to obviously you guys going to Bollywood, social media was limited to, and I've spoken to us about a lot of the other boys, was just one message board. That one message board, Punjab 2000. That's where everyone fans used to talk, etc., etc. But now suddenly things have changed. Now you've got your Twitters, you've got your Facebooks, you've got your Instagrams, and messages are coming across. How did you kind of deal with that? Because, like, you know, you've gone from an era where hate and negativity is limited to one area, and now suddenly it's everywhere. You know, you've made a risk, you've started Manj Musik, a new brand. You're trying to push on forward, but
Yeah, I basically just harnessed all my energy into creating content, creating music. Because during that time there was, I mean, it's quite obvious, it was everywhere. There was a lawsuit going on, there was a legal battle, which is still, you know, it's still, there's a lot of legal issues that are in the air right now, still up until today. But between Tony and Touchables and all the singers and the writers and everyone, that's another story altogether. And that's all I did. I just, you know, I hooked up with Raftar. I got different people. I got into the hip hop game, and I just started creating my own stuff. And Whistle Bajao was the first song that I did with Saji Nadiwal as a Bollywood song with Nindi, and that was a success. Touch wood. So it just kind of gave me that. You know what? You know what? I don't need to. I don't need this negativity. I don't need this negativity. I can just focus on one thing and just move on that way. And bear in mind, during this whole time, the whole crew of RDB stuck to RDB because that was a backbone for them, right? That's a support line, whether it's a financial support line or just a support line to say this is who we are. They stuck to that, and nobody stuck to me because they're like, this guy's an absolute idiot. He's gone and started Manj Musik, blah blah blah. He should have carried on the legacy. He should have carried on the legacy because that's what Cully would have wanted. I'm 100% sure Podge would have wanted to carry on the legacy. But that legacy only would have moved forward if everybody collectively really worked together. Otherwise, it would have never worked. It would have been a demolishment of a legacy. So I moved out, they moved over, I carried on doing what I did. There was a lot of hate. Oh my God, did I get absolutely penalized? I got annihilated from absolutely everyone. But I didn't care. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make new music and just concentrate on my content. I don't care. And Ravdi May now, I'm here today. My son's 16. He's producing music. Nindi's still on the road. 20 years later, we're still doing shows. You know, I'm blessed. I'm happy. You know what? I couldn't ask for anything more in my life. to be honest.
No, you know
I'm
what?
sure Baj is happy.
Yeah, it's a journey, and you know what? It's about understanding this journey and kind of, you know, documenting this legacy. And I think, you know, everyone that's been involved so far, you know, massive props to them. There were some people that didn't want to be involved, but look, we've tried what we've done, and I think it's awesome that, you know, we've finished with you, Manj. But there's one question that Sharon wants to ask everyone, and she's asked everyone, and it's something for 2023. So I'll let her kind of finish it off.
Thank you. Would you be happy to join us for a reunion?
The Untouchables crew.
Untouchables crew reunion.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No way. I'm not going to make it. No, of course. Of course.
Oh,
Any
brilliant.
like time, place. Let me know. I'll be there. Of course. 100 billion%.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one in that door, and I'll be the first person to greet every single one of them. Greet every single one of them open-handedly, saying, "Let's go. Let's talk."
Yeah.
But bro, look, it's yours. Sign off. You know, whatever message you want to say. You know, the last minute, it's you, bro.
I think my only message to the fans, one is I'm sorry that, you know, RDB is not carrying on music today, but I promise you I will try to make as much music as I can from my side that will make you guys proud, maybe give you a hint or a feel of an RDB type of vibe. And second of all, some advice to everybody out there. If you guys are gonna start a clique, a crew, put everything pen to paper, put everything on writing, make sure everyone knows their job roles, what they need to do, what their auqat is, what they're worth, what they're gonna get paid. Make it clear right from the start. There's no such thing as friendship in business. Business is business and friendship is friendship, and that's how it works.
Yeah.
That's my advice.